Good evening. This is Seth Engelborg, Chair of the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We are meeting today for the July 24th, 2025 of the meeting of the Nantucket Conservation Commission at 5 p.m. in a hybrid fashion with some attendees physically present in the room and some on Zoom. The first thing we'll be doing today is establishing a roll call of members. Members, when you hear your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mike Mazzarelli.
Here.
RG Turcotte.
Here.
Joe Plandowski.
Here.
Tim Brain.
Here.
John Schaefer.
Here.
And that's who we have right now with us. We will go over the agenda and read through our continuances. The following items are continued. Under Notice of Intent, Section B, no waiver required. We have Nantucket Islands Land Bank, Smooth Hummocks Way, SC 48, 38, 93, continued till August 7th. Also, the land bank at 41 Jefferson Ave, SC 48, 39, 10, continued till August 7th. Under Section C, waiver required pre-January 1st submissions. Sconset Beach Preservation Fund, 59 through 83 Baxter Road, SC 48, 37, 59, continued to August 7th. The Summer House of Nantucket Realty Trust, 10 and 16 Ocean Avenue, SC 48, 38, 24, continued till August 7th. And then under Section D, Notice of Intent waiver required. We have Sankaty Golf Club, Inc., 18 Hoyks Hollow Road, SC 48, 39, 11, continued till August 7th. And I believe that's all of our continuances for tonight. I have one other minor comment on the agenda. In other business, right above committee reports says officer appointments. I think that's supposed to be committee appointments because we'll be doing the officer appointments at the beginning of the hearing today. So commissioners, with those continuances and minor adjustments, is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Linda, and let it be known for the record that Commissioner Williams has joined the meeting at 5:03 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. We do need to do a roll call vote. Mike Mazzarelli.
Aye.
RG Turcotte.
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. We'll now move on to our officer appointments. Would somebody who is not myself or Linda please volunteer to be the chair pro tem to do the officer appointments?
I can volunteer. I can volunteer for that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. I'll cede to you. What you need to do is seek nominations for chair and vice chair and then vote on them.
Is there any nominations that?
I make a motion to nominate Seth as chair. He's done a fantastic job.
Second.
All those, roll call vote. John Schaefer? Aye. Tim Brain?
Aye.
Joe Plandowski?
Aye.
Seth Engelborg?
Aye.
RJ Turcotte? Aye. And Mike Mazzarelli votes in the affirmative? Aye.
And I vote in the affirmative.
Sorry, Linda. New to this.
Now you need to get, now you need to get a vice chair as well.
Okay. Do we have a nomination for the vice chair?
I'll nominate myself, I guess. I enjoy it.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Tim, thank you, Tim. All those, we'll have a roll call vote. All those in favor, John?
Aye.
Schaefer? Tim Brain?
Aye.
Joe Plandowski?
Aye.
Seth Engelborg?
Aye.
RJ Turcotte? Aye. Linda Williams?
Aye.
And Mike Mazzarelli, a vote in the affirmative. Aye.
Thank you, Mike. Much appreciated. And thank you all for your support of myself as the chair and Linda as the vice chair again for another year. We will now move on to public comment. This is for items not on today's agenda. We'll be holding to the select board's established protocols for public comment, limiting comment to 3 minutes or less, and not engaging in deliberation, just simply taking items into consideration for future meetings. If anyone physically present in the room has public comment, please approach one of the microphones and make your comment now. And if anyone on Zoom has a public comment, raise your hand virtually. Please bring them over. Please introduce yourself for the record with your name, and then feel free to make your comment.
Hi, are you talking to the person that's on the phone?
We can hear you. Are you hoping to make a public comment?
I am. I don't know if you've gotten yet to this on the agenda, 59 Starbuck Road.
Yes, this right now is just for items not on today's agenda. Items that are on the agenda, we will get to later.
Okay, perfect. I will lower my hand then. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Seeing no other public comments, we will move on to the public hearing. And we will begin our public hearing under notices of intent, which we have. Our first one is under section C, notice of intent waiver required pre-January 1st submissions. We have West Assured LLC at 62 Winoma Way, SC 48 3869, represented by Brian Madden. Brian, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks so much. For a reminder, this project is the relocation of an existing fence that was filed prior to January 1st, 2025. The project had gone through ultimately HGC review with some minimal changes outside of the Concom's jurisdiction at the front of the property. And we were able to have an on-site on Tuesday with a couple commission members. I don't know if anyone else was able to shoot out there, but also wanted to share a couple photos of what we saw. But basically, the ask is to relocate the fence outside or along the 50-foot buffer zone to BVW associated with Tom Nevers Pond. But there are a few areas where we are requesting some encroachment into the 50-foot by the order of about 5 to 8 feet on average, generally closer to 5, where the lawn edge, the existing lawn edge, minimally encroaches into the 50-foot buffer zone. So we're asking to reinstall the fence along that lawn edge versus in the middle of the lawn. So I don't know, we had the 50-foot buffer staked out, which was observed at the on-site. For those folks who did not attend or were unable to get out to the site before the meeting, I could share a couple photos to show some of these areas, if appropriate.
You're welcome to.
Thank you.
Just stopping my screen share, Brian. Whenever that's down, you should be good.
Thanks, Will. Everyone can see my screen? Yes? Yes. Okay.
Yep, sorry. Mic was off.
Okay. So what we have here, this is the single family dwelling. These stakes with the blue and orange ribbon are the 50-foot buffer zone. And this is the edge of the lawn that just has a few stakes for the an orange ribbon. So basically, this is what we're asking for, is to install the fence along the lawn edge versus out in the middle of the lawn, which is going to be immaterial, de minimis to no impact on the resource areas and any form and function as it relates to wildlife migration through the site. Just hopping back over to the site plan quickly. Again, these areas are in this vicinity here. And there's on order of anywhere from 90 to 100 foot plus migratory corridor between the lawn edge and proposed fence location and Tom Nevers Pond. The for that will be maintained as a migratory corridor. And just to amplify what that looks like, here's the existing access walking path down to the pond, and that will all be maintained as part of the project. And with that, I'll turn it over to questions.
Thank you, Brian. Commissioners, questions or comments? Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was one of the commissioners that went out to the site on Tuesday, and I find it a little bit difficult in one sense of the word. It's not really our mission to stop deer from encroaching on people's property. As a matter of fact, it's more for wildlife considerations. I wasn't really too concerned with the fence around going around the pool area, but it's 5 or 6 places, and I guess I'll just say it the way I see it. I think if we were to consider it, that we'd have to probably tighten up some of the other lawn areas as a give back, and that's just one comment. Everybody else is going to have an opinion of what to do or what not to do here, but that was just my observation on the site.
Thank you, Mike. Other commissioners? Yes, RJ, go ahead.
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it this week, but I don't see why there's nothing stopping, or there's no structures or anything keeping it from being along the 50 the whole way, and I'm not really in support of allowing it inside the 50. I understand that the lawn is maintained that far, but this is the line we draw, and we really don't allow this anywhere else. Like I said, if there was something preventing them from putting the fence there, I mean, they've already practically, to mark it, put fence posts in to mark where the 50 is, and that's our line. So I'm not in support of allowing the fence to be in the 50. It should just be along the 50. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
I saw this a long time ago, and I'm the one who brought it to the attention of the staff because I happened to be working up the street, and somebody else on another property came and got me and took me down the street, and I was able to see it all where it is. And just after it was put in. I know the HDC is having an issue with the Winoma Way side, and I think that's moving in also. I was kind of concerned. It's running along the easement, the public access, and it's tall and it post caps, and I think it needs to be subdued no matter where it goes. But I'm not in favor of it being on the outside of the vegetation either. The owner very graciously took me around inside, showed me where everything was. So I was able to go inside the yard where the grass is. He didn't do that. He did do the fence, but the guy told him he could do the fence without permits. And so it wasn't the owner's fault that happened. But I don't agree. I do agree that it can't be inside the 50. I'm not sure when it moves inside the big heavy hedges, if it moves inside onto the grass or if that is actually 50. I was unclear. Maybe Brian can add that question through the chair as to when that fence moves into the 50. Is it actually in the middle of the yard or is it just inside the big heavy hedge that's there?
I can answer that.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen and talk it through a second. So I'm going to zoom in and around the pool area where there are existing hedges around the pool. So it does, cut through in multiple locations through, this is the 50-foot, the purple
Yeah.
line, through the hedgerow, moving in front of the house. It's about 5 feet off of the lawn area, maybe max 8 feet or so. Here is another small area where it's clipping into the 50. There's irrigation boxes that would be cut off if the fence were to follow the 50-foot. And then over in this corner by the guest cottage, what's not shown is that there is a hedgerow around this flagstone patio.
Yeah.
And I know Mike and Tim saw it out in the field, but there's a stake that's in the hedges right at this corner. So that walk around, although it's tight, would be completely cut off as well. So, trying to balance egress around these structures and not have, 10 gates scattered all the way around. And again, I go back to the point of this all, it is, as we've stated since day one, it's deer protection. But, between 5 to 10 feet, say, that's not going to have a material impact on deer migration through this property. As we outlined, it's going to be maintained, and it's well off of the existing path, which is going to be the primary corridor that's in use. Again, we're 90 to 100 feet off of the pond itself.
All right, question for you through the chair again. When I was out there the first time, his fence was right on the path. I mean, right on the path.
Yeah, that's
You're
where it
and you're
was.
moving, and that's where it was.
It is right now. Yeah, we're proposing to relocate it.
Okay, so you're proposing to take it off where I saw it, which was the entire length of that public access,
Correct.
to where you have it drawn now, the black line?
Yes.
Okay, and the 50-foot is the purple line.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. After looking at it this way and knowing the yard, I would not be adverse, because a lot of this was not, only the fence was done by this current owner. He bought it and the grass is where it was. Everything is where it was. He hasn't added anything.
Correct.
I think I could support where you want to move the fence now. Having seen both sides of it, where it was before, where you're going with it now, and where the 50-yard is. Given this sort of a unique situation, and that you're moving it further away from the pond, because I'll tell you, the pond was full when I was there and I was only 10 feet away from it. I'm okay with the way you have it proposed now.
Thank you, Linda. So I want to point everybody to the waiver that's being requested. The applicant's requesting the waiver under the section A, which is no adverse impacts, no reasonable alternatives. We have a two-part test. We have to determine whether having the fence in that 50-foot buffer zone will have an adverse impact, and we have to determine if there's a reasonable alternative. I think reasonable alternative is something I could speak on first. I think there's plenty of reasonable alternatives. I understand the applicant's concern about putting the fence close or in some areas, like where the pool patio is or the garage. But that whole area where in the center where it's 8 feet off of the lawn, that lawn's already significantly large. It doesn't need to be this much intrusion. There's possibly be a case for supporting minimal intrusion in some of these tricky areas, but I could never support this current location in the middle of that property. There's no reason at least in the middle of the property where it can't be onto the 50-foot buffer. And then the second thing is there's plenty of ways to accomplish deer protection. Is this type of exclusionary fence the best? Yes. But if you already have tight hedgerows in some of these areas around the patio, you mean linking a fence into that hedgerow for part of the run, will deer eventually once in a while go through that? Yeah, probably, but I mean, what's the ultimate goal here? Our regulations protect wetland resource areas and wildlife habitat. Putting up fencing, although the applicant may say it's de minimis, putting up fencing discourages the natural migratory pathways of animals, including deer and many other animals. And there's alternatives. So I think my opinion on this one is the adverse impacts exist but are minimal, and the reasonable alternatives exist and are expansive. So that's what we need to look at here. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, John, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I agree with the minimal adverse impact, but I see like 3 choke points here where, it would make sense to maybe allow a small encroachment and then maybe steer the fence, like you say, in the middle back to the 50. And so you could at least have the walkarounds where you need them, where it's tight, and then the rest would be where it needs to be. So that's what I say.
Thank you, John. Linda, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't take my hand down.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Tim.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think there's a compromise to be made. I think in the middle, it doesn't need to be that far inside the 50, so.
Okay. Would any members of the public wish to weigh in? Seeing not, I guess we'll ask Will the question first. Do we have everything we need to close this application?
We do, if that's what you are wishing to do.
Brian, would you like to close the application or no?
No, I think what I'd like to do, this has been extremely helpful. I really appreciate the feedback. Yeah, let me circle back with the owner and see if some compromise interim position could be made based on the feedback received. So I would request a continuance to the August 7th meeting, please.
Okay, this will continue to August 7th. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on in our agenda to notice of intent waiver required, Section D, Wilner, 16 Codfish Park Road, SE
I can't sit
48.
on this.
Okay,
That's
SE
right.
483912, with Commissioner Williams recused, also represented by Brian Madden.
Thank you very much for the applicant, Brian Madden from LEC. The proposed project involves an addition to the existing guest house or cottage and a septic upgrade at 16 Codfish Park. Will, do you have the plan handy? Oh, there we go.
Yep, sorry.
No worries. So just for orientation purposes, this is at the corner of Beach Street and Codfish Park. Codfish Park is to the east, right page, right of or east of Codfish Park Road is the a coastal dune that is effectively a static feature given the presence of Codfish Park. The addition itself, you can see, is on the backside of the existing cottage, so moving away from the resource area to the west. The addition itself is replacing a existing patio, stone patio, and retaining wall and some lawn landscaping. The proposed septic system is in the front of the building, between the road and the structure. It's the only viable location for the septic system. What's existing is a leach pit servicing the home and cottage. And what's being proposed is an upgrade to a Title V compliance system. There's no change in bedrooms here, but there's certainly an improvement over existing conditions for septic. And we've asked a waiver for the project. You can see that the addition is in the 75 and the septic work is in the 100-foot buffer zone. But the waiver that we applied for is specifically the scenario when portions of the buffer zone between the project and adjacent resource area are previously altered or not within the control of the project owner applicant, such as a public or semi-public pedestrian or vehicular access way. And we feel that the project has been designed to avoid any adverse impacts to the resource area and actually result in improvement with the septic upgrade. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Commissioners?
Seth?
Yes, Tim.
Yeah, I actually walked down there this morning, and it's smaller than it looks. It's a pretty small addition, and I think the improvement of the septic is probably a benefit enough. And the addition, there's no other place really for them to put an addition anyway. So I would tend to be in favor of it.
Other commissioners? All right, my one comment is that it's not necessarily the thing that's gonna hold up my opinion on this project, but I just want commissioners to be a little bit wary of requests for waivers for the section B, for the, which is what Brian quoted about the resource area being within the pedestrian or public way, when the resource area we're talking about is coastal dune. Because a primary function that we should be seeking to protect is the landward and lateral migration of coastal dune. I think in this case, there's going to be a lot bigger problems if the coastal dune migrates off past Codfish Park Road. There's going to be no access to the house anymore. But I just want, I know we're supposed to speak on applications on the merits and on the property itself, but I just want people to really read those waiver requests when they come in and make sure that we're not just applying it to all cases, but it needs to be relevant for the property that is being requested for, because the word in that waiver is may, not shall. So just keep that in mind. But in this specific case, I am okay with it.
Yeah, and maybe just to further that point, yeah, so I'm always pretty reluctant to use that waiver request only when it's really appropriate. And I think in this situation, considering that the Codfish Park is the sole access for 30 plus homes to the north, that I felt it was appropriate to propose that one here.
Thank you, Brian. Members of the public, any questions or comments? Seeing none. Will, do we have everything we need to close?
Yes, we do, Seth.
Brian, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mike and Joe, for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. The carrier 6 in the affirmative with Commissioner Williams recused. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
And we'll now move on in our agenda. We have no amended orders of conditions tonight. We'll go on to the public meeting. And I believe the only order of conditions that we have to handle tonight is Wilner at 16 Codfish Park Road, SC 48 3912. Will, can you get that up on the screen?
Oopsies. We might want to add one more. I was just thinking, here we go. I was just thinking that the addition likely has foundation plantings or something, so we'll put our restoration planting and fertilizer and agricultural chemicals if you guys want. But we'll get there. 16 Codfish Park Road. This order permits the proposed addition onto an existing cottage along with septic upgrades within land subject to coastal storm flowage and buffer zone to a coastal dune. Waiver is required for the project as proposed. No NHESP. Conditions 18 and 19, and then 20 for lighting. 21, that roof runoff shall be directed to a subsurface infiltration system. 22, all restoration plantings are to be native species with no cultivars. And if we would like to add agricultural chemicals and fertilizer, I was going to throw that in.
Sounds good. Commissioners, any other comments, questions, additions? All right, Will can get that edited and up on the screen, and then we will take a vote.
And I didn't mention it either, but we also have our waiver, which we've covered quite well, I think. But waivers are required that construction shall not occur within 50 feet of a coastal dune. Commission finds this project area is separated from the resource area by a publicly traveled vehicular access way. Therefore, we're granting a waiver under 390-3H3B of the Nantucket Wetland Regulation. And here's our conditions, that's all.
Is there a motion to approve and issue the order of conditions as amended?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you, Mike and John for the second, or Tim for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Braid,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Recused.
Yeah, recused, sorry. Seth Ingberg, aye. That carries 6 in the affirmative with Commissioner Williams recused. Thank you. We'll move on now to requests for determination of applicability, which we have one, McMahon, 59 Starbuck Road, represented by Art Gasparo. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you tonight with a RDA for the upgrade of a septic system within the buffer zone to coastal bank. And we're adding IA technology as well as removing an existing soil absorption system from within the buffer zone and relocating it to the north out of your jurisdiction. We're seeking confirmation of the resource area boundary as well as that the work within the buffer zone would not require a notice of intent. And we believe that there's a net benefit to the project, and there's no waivers that are requested, and believe that it's appropriate under a determination of applicability. I'd be happy to address any questions or concerns should you have them.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments, or concerns? We are in a public meeting, so we're not required to take public comment, but seeing as we have a member of the public interested in speaking, I will use my authority as chair to allow them to. So Jasmine, please introduce yourself with your name, any connection you may have to the project, and then say your piece.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm Jasmine Alcantara. I'm the owner of 61 Starbuck Road, which is the adjacent property to 59 Starbuck Road. I have major concerns about this project, specifically the resource area boundary that Art had just referred to. Specifically, formal communications went out between August and October 2018 from my attorney, Richard Glidden, communicating that my neighbors, the McMahons, are undoubtedly aware that their driveway crosses my property without the benefit of an easement and constitutes a trespass. They continue to illegally encroach upon my lot. And so I have serious concerns that this project will overstep and continue to expand without permissions, legal permissions, and continue their trespassing on my property.
Excuse me, Jasmine, but we are unable to take the testimony on issues outside of the Wetlands Protection Act or the Nantucket regulations. So unless you have specific concerns about the project as proposed, any of those driveway issues or potential trespass issues will have to be handled in another forum.
Okay, understood. And so, since this is a Conservation Commission meeting, I do have serious concerns about the disruption to our Long Pond environment. Back in the 1980s, the McMahons already disrupted their bordering wetlands to plant vegetation. I believe that their continued disruption of the wetlands that they border in order to install their septic leach trenches or innovated trenches will be detrimental to our Long Pond environment. So I'm looking, asking, pleading for guarantees that this is not going to happen again.
Thank you. Commissioners, anything to add here? Will, do we have everything we need to issue this RDA?
We do, yes.
Do you have a recommendation for us?
Yep, I need to recall the code for the resource area boundary, which I thought was accurately delineated for the record. I was recommending a -3, which is that it's work in the buffer zone, but there's no adverse impact. This is an improvement over the existing septic system. And I just need to grab the code for the delineation was accurate. I forgot the number, but our -3 is for the first one. And we have a +2A for the boundary delineations of the following resource areas on the reference plans are confirmed as accurate.
Thank you. Would somebody like to make a motion to issue this RDA with a -3 and +2A determination?
So moved.
Thank you, RJ. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski,
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll now move on. We have no minor modifications, so we'll move on to certificates of compliance. And we'll group the first two and then the second two together. So we have two for Eloise Nominee Trust. One's at 5 Sandy Drive and the second is at 1 and 5 Sandy Drive. The file numbers are SC 48 3456 and 3624. These are represented by Don Bracken. Don, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Don Brack, representing the applicant. Yes, we had two orders of conditions on this property. At one time, they were two separate properties, number 1 and number 5. Number 1 was a vacant lot, but number 5 had a couple of structures on it. So that was the first order of conditions issued, was to remove those structures and revegetate the area, which was done prior to working on the new house, which was part of the second order of conditions. So everything was done according to the plans, except we did have some exceptions that I think are minor and really don't have any impacts. In the letter, there was some additional pervious driveway area expanded on the south side of the garage. There was a post and rail fence added inside the limit of the lawn with the 50-foot buffer. That's actually located further from the wetland than what was originally approved for the grass. So there's actually less grass than what was there before. And now the area that's turning into natural vegetation is delineated with the post and rail fence. So I think that's probably a benefit. There was an AC unit and outdoor shower added to the smaller structure between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer zones. And then the downspouts, probably in a more robust type of infiltration system than what was originally approved. But based on the infiltration trench around the structure, that they're certainly containing the runoff from the roof and infiltrating as much as possible. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Will, have you been out to the site and do you have recommendations for us on these two certificates of compliance requests?
Yep, I have been out. I'll second what Don said. I don't think this is a partial cert. I think this is definitely substantial compliance and just issue the cert. the differences were pretty small, and then to me, probably the largest difference was the post and rail, and it's farther from the resource area. So for both of these permits, I was recommending issuance of the COC, and there are actually no continuing conditions on either. So for 3624, issue nothing, and for 3456, issue no continuing conditions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Or if not, is there a motion to issue this 2 certificates of compliance for SC 48 3456 and SC 48 3624?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. Is
Second.
there a second? Thank you,
Second,
Linda,
Mr.
for the
Chairman.
second. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. Those carry unanimously. And
Thank
now
you.
we'll move on. Thank you as well. We'll move on to White Elephant Hotel Residences LLC. Two orders or 2 certificates of compliance for 14 North Water Street, lots 11A and lot 7. These are SC 48 3740 and 3739, and they're represented by Paul Santos.
Thank you. For the record, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors. On behalf of the applicant on both of these properties, White Elephant Hotel Residences LLC, care of New England Development. This was the development of 2 residential lots within the White Elephant Way subdivision. This was an area that had previously been developed, graded, utility infrastructure was put in place, and the areas of these 2 homes was lawn area, essentially. It was a filing within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Both properties were developed in accordance with the approved plans. Utility infrastructure, both are connected to public sewer, public water. The plan set forth the as-built conditions, as-built plantings, along with the as-built grades, all in compliance with the original order of conditions issued for both of them. Both orders were issued with no waivers requested or required. And happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Paul. Will, have you been out to the site and you have recommendations for us on these 2 certificates of compliance?
Yes, sir. I've been to both sites, which are right next door to each other. I'm recommending issuance of both of these certificates of compliance. Again, there were just 18 and 19 on these, so no continuing conditions, and that's it.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to issue the certificates of compliance for SC 48, 3739, and 3740? Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
John Schaefer.
Aye.
Linda Williams.
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. Those both carry unanimously. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
We have no extension requests tonight. Move on to other business. We have no minutes to approve. We have no monitoring reports. And we need to do committee appointments. Is there anybody who's unsatisfied with their current committee appointment? Everybody wants to continue? Okay, we need a motion to continue all of the current committee appointees to another 1-year term on their committees.
So move, Mr. Chairman. I'll second that.
Thank you, Tim and Linda, for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Miserelli,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plandowski.
Aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
Seth Engelberg, aye. Thank you all for serving. You do need to get sworn in again, so please do that before the next meeting. Sworn in for those
thing.
committees. Yeah.
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 You guys made that so easy. Thank you. No notes.
Yeah. And with that being said, we do need to do committee reports too. So Craig, Tim, get a report.
Nothing really. We're down to 1 meeting a month through September.
Okay. CPC, John.
Nothing new, but we do have a big meeting coming up in August to review and stuff, so that should be interesting.
Thank you. MPDC, Mike.
Nothing new, but a meeting coming up on the 28th.
Thank you. And Linda for the harbor plan.
Well, we moved, because we had trouble getting quorums, we moved the annual meeting or the public meeting to the middle of August. They're sort of working it out. I think it's the 14th if everything holds. And they are almost done with the final draft, which will go out to all the stakeholders. Jeff has been very helpful with that, providing a lot of information for that. And then we see what happens after that.
Great, thank you. So we'll move on now to enforcement actions. Do we have any new or emerging enforcement actions not listed on the page?
Nothing new, but I can give a super quick update on pullover, and then I can probably give a very brief, very general overview on Mariah Mitchell situation.
Yes, please.
Just because it's not on the agenda, but it's simple and it's good. 14 Plover, we are continuing another 2 weeks. You guys might have seen the email that I sent out earlier, but I keep wanting to say applicant, but it is applicant because it's an NOI, but the homeowner at 14 Plover, their attorney, Glenn Wood, was drafting up language for a deed restriction for our attorney, George Pucci, to review. Our counsel is also still weighing in on language for the order and everything, so I was very happy with this continuance as well, because it's not really a discussion that I'd like to run into unprepared.
Yeah,
which I
just
think makes sense.
before you go on from there, we do need to make it known for the record that we've received an express written authorization from the attorney to continue to August 7th.
And-
Because we are running, without that, we would run up on the deadline, but we have received that.
Yeah.
And we do need that letter that was circulated to the committee or commission to be publicly posted for the packet as well.
And it will be in the original letter as well. If you look at the language, I think it said, we're continuing to be heard, and the OOC will be issued at or following July 24th. So I think it already had a little less pressure than I had kind of assumed, but we did get express consent for that. That'll be in the packet. And then the other one, I don't think I can give like a
Inside the house.
real.
What?
Have you been inside that house?
You
Yes.
gotta be on mute,
To
Linda.
have AC?
Linda,
Just
mute,
put it on
please.
I don't know right now.
Linda,
You
mute
need to
button.
mute, mute.
I'm on live.
You need to mute.
I muted her. Anyway, I love this job. The Mariah Mitchell one, I sent out a letter. I did hear from their attorney this morning. They're very willing to go through the permitting process, and we are discussing the next steps for what's most appropriate. Step one, need to determine where the tent actually is, but there's a lot more discussions to follow, likely Monday. And I think that's probably all I should say, as it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to let you guys know that the letter wasn't ignored and we're in process, so I'll have a more detailed update in 2 weeks.
Thank you. All right, move on to commissioners' comments. Any comments? Yes, Mike, go ahead.
I'd say improvement in this week's packet by getting the individual click-on solved. It made it a lot easier, so I'm going to credit Lisa with that. Thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
Anyone else? Yeah, Joe.
I listened to the presentation today between 12 and 1 by the State Conservation Commission. And what I got out of that is local bylaws are going to be under a lot of pressure because the state wants to take over.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else? All right, with that being said, Will, it's your turn. Time for a staff report, if you have any.
I have nothing, and I love this 51-minute meeting, so zip.
Then, in that case, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Mike.
Second.
I think we'll take Tim for the second. By roll call vote, Mike Mazzarelli,
Aye.
Archie Turcott,
Aye.
Joe Plendowski.
Aye.
Tim Brand,
Aye.
John Schaefer,
Aye.
Linda Williams.
You know, the fall, it might be worse. And you actually beat the HDC by 8 minutes. They had a 1 hour meeting.
Do you say aye?
Yeah.
Seth Engelborg, aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you all.
Thank you. Where are we?
Do we have the one order?